Hi, welcome to all of the AusIMM members who've taken time out to tune into this short video podcast. So what you're looking at here is myself, Peter Standish, and one of our other long-term and valuable members of the Society's Health and Safety Society. So my background is mining engineering. Have worked in and around the industry for sort of over 30 years, and I've been involved with the AusIMM committee for over 3 years now. So I'll pass over to Darren to do a quick bit of an intro, but then hopefully everyone's going to stay tuned and listen in as we discuss critical risk on sites and what you as an AusIMM member should be alert to and how it should go. So Darren, do you want to do a quick bio and a bit of an intro?
Thanks, Peter. Yeah, g'day everyone. Look, great to be with you. It's certainly an issue that both Peter and I are passionate about, this whole concept of critical risk. Myself, started off life as a geo way back in the mid-80s and spent 20 odd years in mining, mainly gold mining, many years at KCGM in its early years. Nickel, tin in Tasmania, and transitioned into health and safety some time back, where I guess my passion these days lay, and particularly critical risk.
Great, thanks for that, Darren. So when you use the term critical risk, what do you actually mean? Like it's like I'm always mindful as an industry, we use the word risk and it bounces around everywhere, and then you ask people what they actually mean and you'll get any number of definitions. So for you, critical risk, do you want to define it so people who are tuned in can get a feel as to what we're talking about?
Yeah, again, it's a good point. I think the term safety and the term risk are bandied around and everyone assumes that we're all talking about the same thing. The truth is that everyone has their own interpretation and definition. For myself, critical risk is the risk that is associated with a major hazard. Now, a major hazard leads to a material unwanted event, and for me, those events are always the ones that can end up in a fatality or a permanently disabling injury, specifically from the safety perspective.
Okay, yeah. No, thanks for that, Darren. So the focus is around safety, and it's really any event that is in that sort of space where, and I'll just rattle off a few, but it would be like major ground event, any explosives incident, major unwanted vehicle interactions, everything in that space where, as an industry, we've got sadly a track record of having one or more fatals.
Yeah, very much so. It's those hazards that we know and we've known for many, many years, and we know a lot about them. And it just amazes me that we continually make same mistakes, and unfortunately, the consequence of that, people lose their lives or are seriously injured. So for me, I use that Pareto principle. I like to think about the 20% of hazards that hold 80% of your risk. And if we can unpack and understand those, I think we're on a much better journey and efficient journey to saving people's lives in the future.
Right, thanks for that, Darren. So I might unpack just sort of one specific example, and then we might sort of look to say, okay, we'll judge the level of interest of the people who've tuned in and listened to us talk, and then, as you pointed out before we came on air, like really the next steps from here is, if people want, we can unpack this a bit further. But do you want to just give a quick snapshot, say, like I'm a professional on a site and I'm thinking, okay, I don't know that as a site we've really got a good handle on say our key ground fault threats. Mm-hmm. So what would an intervention that's going to really improve critical risk outcomes on a site look like in your mind?
Well, you're right. There is a lot to talk about. I think here, Pete, we're going to just talk about some of the mechanistic elements of critical risk control, and I think we need to differentiate between those organisational and cultural issues that often sit below the waterline and drive behaviours that also need to be well understood. From the critical risk point of view, I think you've got to understand what your major hazards are. Yeah, it's got to be clear, particularly in the management team and the executive team. If they don't understand what their major hazards are, then that's a problem. That's an organisational problem. On site, we generally do understand that it could be a ground strata problem. It could be a mobile equipment problem. They're two very common ones and ones that we're very familiar with. The next part is being able to unpack that hazard and understanding those causal pathways. And I'm a bit of a fan of the bow tie technique of unraveling the causes of certain events and failures of controls that lead to this unwanted event. But that's so important that we understand very, very clearly what can go wrong, what is the control that's trying to prevent that from going wrong, and understanding holistically how all of these elements fit together to potentially cause that unwanted event.
Thanks, Darren. That's an interesting way to look at it. I've got a few other thoughts in that space, but I won't muddy the waters here. That's to be continued if we touch on this in a subsequent discussion. But I guess to try and synthesize then what you're saying is, if I'm an institute member, I'm in like a supervisory moving up in the management hierarchy. What specific things should I look for to know that I'm in a place that really does have a good handle on it? You mentioned there should be organisational understanding of the major hazards. What kind of things would you expect to see in the body of knowledge, or like in your role, that would be a good tick in the box or ring an alarm bell if it was missing?
Yeah, I think I come back to a pretty simple idea that effective critical risk is about doing stuff. We can all write lots of documents and have elaborate diagrams and make all sorts of promises. At the end of the day, things need to be done. We need to be actively involved in the workplace. And if I was a supervisor, maybe a mine foreman, something like that, then I would want to make sure that I understood those major hazards. I understood whatever controls that we have in place. It might be as simple as a daily inspection list, and one of those inspections is maybe a transfer pump for acid or something of the. And what I would be doing is making sure that pump and those gland seals and valves are all effectively working each day. So it's about translating and knowledge of the hazard, understanding all those transfer points, and understanding those that if this failed, it is quite likely that someone is going to be injured, and simply doing something, doing what needs to be done. We can't prevent everything, but what we can do is what we say is reasonably practicable. And we need to understand what those tasks are, and we need to make sure that someone is actually doing them.
Okay, so I guess to try and sum that up into what a practical action type item would be is, as a professional on the site, I would want to be able to hand on heart say, I know what the critical risks are in my span of control, and I can see actions by myself and my team that are addressing each of the key controls that address those major risks. Is that a 5-second synopsis of it?
Yeah, it is, and I think that there's the other 5 seconds is just as you're going to sleep at night. Can you lie there and go, yep, we did everything we could do today. I understand what could go wrong, and I also know that we've done all that we could do to stop anything going wrong. And I think if you can shut your eyes and go, I think the team did a wonderful job today. Then you're going to sleep easy in the knowledge that you understand what needed to be done and confident that it has been done.